This story is called Undertale Save, as in Undertale, save, by TempoWrites. Summary, featuring misuse of save features, reality hackage, and one watering can that Goat Mom will not ever be getting back.
Oh dear, this sounds helpful.
The barrier was destroyed, but your save still hung in the corner of your mind. Months had passed since you had let the monsters out of the underground, but you could still feel the save buzzing like the static from an old TV screen. From time to time, you would reach out and touch it, never to load it. Life was pretty good. Living with Toriel made you feel safe and loved. You helped her run errands for her new school and around the house. She made sure you got plenty of hugs and made you feel like you could do anything. Talking with Asgore made you feel important and smart. You brought him iced tea while he worked in the school garden. He listened patiently to your problems and always helped you solve them. You had a really great family, one half at a time. But bringing them together would turn awkward fast. Silences stretched on, each of them fighting to sift the right words from the wrong ones, until one or both of them would find some reason to leave. Something was broken there, something that had been beautiful once. Your friends said that you were too young to worry about it, but you did. You thought about it a lot. At night, you laid in bed and thought. That save floated in the back of your brain, always ready. You couldn't think of anything you would do differently. Resetting to when you first fell into the underground wouldn't help either. The actions you'd taken there played out again and again in your mind, even the mistakes you'd erased. You had dropped into their lives long after they split up. You could only fix mistakes that you were around to make. Maybe it couldn't be fixed. Still, you felt bad for Azrael. You could feel him standing there in your save file. You felt like you had failed. You hated failing. He deserved better than you failing. You had solved all kinds of problems by not giving up, but you couldn't help feeling like you gave up on him. It felt bad. At the very least, you thought it might be nice to talk to somebody else who knows what it's like to die. That was messed up, and you didn't want to feel messed up. But you were pretty sure the people who loved you didn't want to hear about all the times they had killed you. Maybe Sans could have handled it, but he never tried to kill you. That guy was completely harmless. But Asgore? Hearing about how he had killed you 14 times would mess him up, so you never brought it up. Just like how you never brought up that one time Toriel was trying to scare you into not leaving the safety of her underground home and accidentally killed you with a blast of fire when you tripped on your own shoelace. You'd been double knotting your laces ever since. Azrael might understand, though. You stared at the dark ceiling. Everything that was terrible was because Azrael was dead. Azrael being dead was terrible. With everything else you'd fixed, you'd think that one dead goat kid wouldn't be a problem. Late one night, the idea got too tempting. The last few months were pretty cool. You could relive them. No big deal. You just had to talk to him. Maybe you would notice something that you had missed. Plus, there was a guy in your class named Dave, and you'd been calling him Chad accidentally, so it wouldn't be all bad to write off the last couple of months. You briefly mourned the loss of those months with your new mom and dad, but you could have all those moments again. You just had to make the right choices. So you reached for it. But the save didn't work. You tried it over and over, but it just didn't work. Normally, you just sort of grabbed onto the strange buzz of the save file and pulled it towards you. Even reaching out your actual hands didn't help. You couldn't even touch the familiar static crackle of your save. Huh. You didn't get a ton of sleep that night. After school the next day, you went to the mountain. There, you could touch your save file, but it was different, fainter, farther away. As the days passed by, you could barely reach your save file at all. The save power was fading away. But maybe, you thought, With what little power you had left, you could save something else. You just had to figure out how. That had been a week ago. Then, today in the school garden, you found Asgore installing new branches on a plum tree.
What? Grafting it. You must have been. Yeah.
He explained how you could take a piece of one plant and graft it into another, if they were close enough. Sometimes gardeners did this to make apple trees shorter so that they were easier to pick. Asgore, though, just wanted almonds, apricots, cherries, nectarines, and peaches growing on the same tree because it was cool.
You can have different kinds of apples on the same tree. What if it just grows one fruit that's all of them? Then what happens?
Oh, wow. I don't know.
What parts would it keep and not keep? Like, Asgore would have loved the start of Narnia.
Probably so.
Why? The places where you could just plant things. And
like plant golden coins and silver coins, and they turn into stuff.
And the toffee trees.
Oh, yeah, the toffee tree. Since coming to the surface, he'd really started to like the plants around here and how fast they grew in the sunlight. He usually sent fruits and vegetables home with you. Toriel usually didn't talk about them, but she made them into pies. It made him weirdly happy. Something about grafting plants stuck in your head, though. If it worked for plants, then maybe... As soon as you'd finished talking to Asgore, you biked back home and trudged up the side of Mount Ebott, Toriel's snail-shaped, never-used watering can in hand. The tricky part was not spilling it while you climbed down the rope to the ruins, but you had practice. Once on the cave floor, you watered the bed of golden flowers that once broke your fall. Sunlight shone off of their cheery petals. You stepped on a candy wrapper. With no monster here to tidy up, leaves and litter now piled up in the ruins. You sprinkled a water sausage dose of water on an especially large golden flower. Hey! How great that a stupid human has come to the exact same spot to visit again! Flowey trembled with outrage under the delicate deluge. Are you aware that I can move around? Yes, you continued watering him. I don't need you to water me! He shook the water off of his leaves with great scorn. I can move to get water. I could even move to meet you at the entrance to the cave. His eyes blazed up at you, even as his smile sweetened unnaturally. Except this is the place you always come to. Yep. You set the watering can down and started wandering around the ruins. I don't like following you around. His roots churned the earth as he burrowed after you. Besides some spiders, he was basically the last monster in the underground. I just want to see what you're doing so I can make fun of you. I know. After poking around the ancient stone balcony, you found a plastic toy knife stuck in the dirt. You picked it up. As you brushed years' worth of dust from it, you reached back to your save file. It felt like static left when you turn off an old TV. Instead of grabbing the whole save and pulling it over yourself, you felt around inside it. It took a long time, but eventually you found what felt like a toy knife in the save file, right where you had picked this one up. You set the knife on the ground, then pulled just that tiny part of the save towards yourself. The ground in front of you went black for the blink of an eye. Then the knife reverted to its sticking back out of the ground position, where it had been for years. Huh, you smiled, just a little. Flowey sneered from the dirt at the edge of the balcony stonework. What are you trying to do? His stem wiggled as he pursed out his lips in mocking, eyes wide and sparkling. Still looking for a happy ending? You ignored him. Okay, since that worked, you had to try something else.
I just grabbed Azrael out of the save file.
You took a marker from your pocket and then drew, well, but you can't because Frisk's save file only goes back as far as, his own experience.
Feel as real in his save file. Whatever.
Well, like as either Flowey or as the memory of him just before the
Then you put the
end
memory
of the
of him. Oh wait, no.
Okay, since that worked, you had to try something else. You took a marker from your pocket, then drew a smiley face on one of the pillars. It was a little lopsided, but it would work. Reaching back to the save again, you groped in the dark until you found that cold stone of the pillar and pulled it towards you. The smiley face flashed black and vanished. You nodded. Across the chamber, Flowey stretched out an enormous groan. Are you just going to sit here and be stupid forever? Stroking your chin helped you to think, or at least you thought so. You could always help me. He threw his head back and laughed. You naive idiot! Don't you think I have better things to do with my time? You looked around the crumbling and somewhat trash-filled ruins, but you didn't say anything. You had another idea to test. You reached into the save again, but this time you felt for something white, fuzzy, and full of love. It took a long time. After reaching through a whole bunch of twisted and thorny vines, you felt warm fur. Whatever it was had horns and a delicate muzzle with fangs. With great hope, you tried to pull it toward you. It didn't want to budge. Okay, no big deal. Maybe you needed both hands. You reached your other hand into the save, but it wasn't as easy as bringing your hands together in normal space. Your other hand had to search through too and find the something with that same warm fur. After several minutes, you found something that felt pretty similar, though you couldn't feel your other hand, so it was tough to know for sure. Well, you didn't come this far to quit, especially since your arms were falling asleep. Gathering all your strength, you pulled hard. With a grunt of effort, you accomplished nothing. You tried again and again and again, and finally, something started to take shape between your hands. Reality fought against you, but you kept trying. It felt like you were starting to make progress. A cheery custom ring echoed from your cell phone. As you were still wrist-deep in magic, you didn't answer. It kept ringing. Are you seriously going to let that ring forever? Flowey pressed leaves to the petals where his ears would be. Are you too stupid for phones now? I'm not going to answer it. You'd recognize the ringtone instantly. She had picked it herself. You kept focusing on the foggy swirl of white between your palms. It's Mom! Oh, perfect little Frisk is doing something Toria wouldn't approve of. With a crooked smile, the flower lashed out a vine, snatched the phone from your pocket, and flipped it open. We wouldn't want you to get in trouble. He slapped it to your ear. Greetings. Her tone gained a touch of concern when you hesitated, due to the various magical distractions. Frisk, are you there? Hi, Mom. You tilted your head to pin the phone against your shoulder, hand still gripping that part of the save with all your might. Her voice brightened. Pans clanked like she was messing around in the kitchen. I was just calling to ask what you wanted for dinner and when you'd be back from the library. Oh, I don't know. Your teeth gritted as you fought with reality itself. Maybe pizza? A good-natured chide entered her tone. You cannot have pizza every night, my child. Whatever you want to make, then. The entity in your hands started to solidify. I'm sure it'll be great. She hummed absently as she thought it over. If you're quite certain I can't convince you to try snail pie. You groaned as your entire being strained against the save file. Very well, snails are hard to come by up here anyway. You heard paper rustling over the phone. I have been reading about these casseroles. They are rather like pies. You tried really hard to not let her hear what you were doing to reality. Sounds great, Mom! She bleated in a pleased way at your response. I was buying the ingredients for what is called a shepherd's pie. The human at the meat counter gave me the strangest look when I bought... The phone went dead. Mom? You paused at pulling the part of the save file further into reality. The cell reception inside the mountain was terrible. You still there? Your own mom hung up on you? Flowey propped his leaves on his stem and smiled with all the mirth of an old bag of fertilizer. Boy, you must be a terrible kid! Reality warped around your hands. A furry white figure bounced into being, knocking you onto your backside. The phone, still silent, clattered onto the stonework. No clean, black snap of a save this time. Just a weird, lingering darkness that spilled out onto the rubble. Through the strange black haze, Toriel walked up to you, bearing a kind smile. Her strong yet gentle demeanor filled you with determination. She knelt in the soft grass beside you. She took a quiet breath and then cooed. Hoy, Frisk! Oh, humans are too cute! Pat, pat, pat! Her hand patted your head about 10 times in rapid succession. You and Flowey shared a look of absolute horror. Not okay! Not okay! The flower screamed as his leaves patted at your socked ankle. What is wrong with you, Frisk? Load your save! Unperturbed by your or the flower's reaction, the totally not Toriel lulled a gentle and vibrated intensely.
Wow.
Before you could reach out to the save again... Yes. Before you could reach out to the save again, the black aura rippled and then dispelled like a fog on the wind, taking the strange creature with it.
It's like Flowey in Temmie. Flowey controlling a Temmie that looks like Toriel.
I guess one...
You're a terrible kid! Manifests Temmie Toriel.
Well, I guess one of his hands grabbed something furry and the other hand grabbed something completely not furry. So that's other furry.
Well, one got Toriel and one got Temmie, so it was a fan.
Yep. And slapped them together.
I love it. It's like the creature. Wait a minute. The creature lulled us. Wait a minute. What? If he's saving things that happened, he just pulled something into existence that never existed before with his save file. That's wrong. That's saving things that do exist.
Well, yeah, but he pulled 2 different things out of a save file and slapped them together.
That's a crazy power you can have.
How the Temmie Toriel just lulled up.
Yeah, that Temmie Toriel.
It was great. Keep going. Holy frisk!
Beside you, actual Toriel's voice rang out from the phone. Frisk, can you hear me? You jumped and snatched the phone up and whispered as if you had just been shushed by a librarian. Yep, I gotta go. Very well, she whispered back. Get home soon, my child, and we will see about this shepherd's pie. Oh, someone's at the door. I love you dearly. You too, Mom. You stood up and brushed the dirt off your pants. Then you touched your head, hair still tousled from the patting. The phone blinked off as she hung up. Flowey turned slowly to you, his mouth hanging open. That was... You studied the space where the Temiel appeared, just to make sure that it was actually gone. How scary. He bobbed his head in a nod. Let's never do that again. Yeah, you nodded. As the utter absurdity sank in, you couldn't hold back an amused snort. The flower's gaze snapped to you, then a snicker broke from his lips. Did you see? She looked so totally normal. You slipped into a hysterical giggling. But the voice, it was just... He spread his leaves forward at a loss for words. Your whole body convulsed with amusement, threatening to double you over. She was totally a Timmy! Rolling back with a deep laugh, Flowey's voice cracked. His laughter became musical and soft. Mom's never gonna believe us! The utter laughter paused instantly. You blinked in disbelief. Flowey caught your gaze just as quickly, and the strange flowering plant sprouted a few extra thorns and cast a poisonous glare at you.
Yep.
I just said that to mess with you! He bared crooked teeth. You really are wasting your time! Watching him from the corner of your eye, you sat back down and tried to think of just one more way to hack a save. You didn't have much of an inventory to work with. You had a save file, but that was right from after you defeated the absolute god of hyperdeath, and you didn't dare save over it. You had a reset too, but that would take you back to when you first fell into the underground. Not much to help you now, since you'd put so much work into getting things right. You would have traded that reset for another save file in a heartbeat. Your mouth straightened into a firm line. The reset was sort of like a save, just one that you couldn't change. Maybe they weren't different after all.
Oh, great.
You looked down at one of the stone blocks on the floor. It had a corner missing and a deep scratch across it, both covered in super old moss. Using your fingernail, you scraped some moss off the block, just enough to make a mark. Then you reached, really carefully, to your reset. The reset felt harder to press into than a save, but otherwise the same. It took you a few minutes, but you managed to grope your way to the right block. You felt for the missing corner, the groove too, and then pulled it towards you. With a black flash, the missing moss returned. Good. But even your reset didn't go back far enough. What you were looking for had vanished years before you had ever gone to the mountain. Boy, I just can't believe how much of an idiot you are. The flower.
Can we see the stuff changing?
Yeah.
Presumably.
Temiel.
The flower gave you a vicious grin. Did you come here without any plan at all besides lying to your mom? Keep lying to her and she might replace you like she did with all those other kids. Flowey. He could save too.
Yeah.
He had done it when he was trying to kill you. He had killed you lots and lots of times. The only reason he couldn't save now was because he had lost enough determination to have less than you. And if he had a save, he probably had a reset too. And the last and only time he entered the underground was when he came back from the surface, as Azrael, wounded and dying. You couldn't be sure, but it seemed like a good guess. So Flowey could get you what you were looking for. Too bad he'd never help you. He was a total jerk. Are you just gonna stare at me like a freak? Flowey squinted and straightened his sneer out into a flat line. That's how you look right now, stupid. Don't you have anything better to do? But he wasn't the one in your save. On a whim, you reached into your save file again. You felt around for something green and scared, something with thorns and horns. Once you found him, you didn't pull him towards you. Instead, you pressed your way inside him. You felt weird about it, but sometimes friends had to make their best guess what their friends would want.
Thorns and horns? What would that be?
You would be Azrael in various forms, I guess. Besides, you'd reached out to souls inside Flowey before. This wasn't all that different. For a long time, you didn't feel much of anything beyond the sharp pangs of regret and longing for the impossible. Being this close to your goal filled you with determination. Hope swelled in your chest. You pressed on. Minutes crept by, but you never once pulled your hand out of the TV static of the save, even when your arms started to go numb. You know, you look like a moron reaching into the air like that. Flowey rolled his eyes. I can't believe anyone even pretends to love someone as freaky and stupid as you. You ignored him. He had no idea how close you were. You had no idea either, but you weren't willing to give up. You had freed all the monsters by not giving up, and it hadn't let you down yet. Toriel doesn't know you're here, Flowey bobbed smugly. That means she wouldn't approve. You kept ignoring him. My, what would Toriel say? Sneering in your face, the flower sprouted a caricature of your adoptive mother's face and frowned tearfully from between his petals. My child, how could you? Practicing forbidden magic, and at my dead child's grave. How positively awful! He cackled, changing back into his usual self. You know, that might be what it takes for her to kick you out of the house. You're not really her kid, so it wouldn't be that hard.
Well, I was just getting bored. I just segued.
The words drew a cold and heavy knot in your chest. She would never do that. He rubbed his leaves together. Oh, wouldn't she? She kicked out Asgore. Her disappointment broke him. It'll break you too, fragile little Frisk. When even the ultimate goody-goody Toriel doesn't want you around, there's no hope left for you. You clamped down on your expression. The flower didn't have anything better to do than distract you. Instead, you pushed that stupid idea away and thought about what to do next. I think we're going to have to call it a night.
No. You are not calling it a night.
We must.
We are calling it a story time.
It is not.
More.
I know.
But we must have more.
Sorry.
More must happen to us.
But I'm glad you're liking it so far.
It is good.